I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 28th special meeting of the council. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Carlson?
Here.
Councilmember Dobby?
Here.
Councilmember McKeeven?
Excused.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Present.
Mayor Whitmer?
Here. So we move on to the next agenda. We're a minute ahead of schedule. Public comments. This is reserved for comments relating to the items that are specifically on the agenda today. So do we have any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to the regular agenda. First item is approval of a budget amendment to hire an executive firm to recruit a permanent city manager. Teresa?
You have my written report. It includes a staff report, an RFQ. I also suggest that for the RFQ, if you decide to go with a recruiting firm, that you appoint an ad hoc committee to work with the recruiting firm and myself. And I've included timelines, which I just submitted this afternoon. They're also at the back of the room.
I guess Kathy's not coming.
Any discussion? No, Kathy is excused. She's not coming.
I have a question, if I can, but go ahead.
No, I don't have any questions.
So I just have a question about the contract amount, this $17,000, that was pulled together by what metric? Did we?
I called a few different firms to get an approximate.
Mm-hmm.
So 17, I wouldn't expect to use it all, but I wanted to make sure we were covered and we didn't have to come back to council.
Like no more than 17?
No more than 17.
And so would that be just for the recruiting to give us the names of candidates? And would there then be a percentage of their salary paid like there is in the private sector? You know, like 33% of whatever we end up paying? No, not in the public sector.
Yeah, I've never seen that ever in the public sector.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, yeah. That, in the private sector, that's always.
That's always, but you know, you pay them a retainer and then a percentage of the salary.
Woodside and Menlo Park, I've talked to both of them. They were around 16,000.
Okay.
The recruiting firms?
Yeah.
And we've already started the process.
Right,
So,
we've already put ads in.
So we've run some ads and things like that, so.
And we're developing the criteria.
Right. So I would think we would be below that, but Jared? Did you, oh,
I'm just going to make a motion. I'm ready to make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Did you all agree that an ad hoc committee is suitable?
Yes, I would recommend the mayor and vice mayor as being a logical ad hoc committee.
Well, the mayor, ad hoc committee, the mayor appoints, so.
Yeah, understand that, yeah. I'm just providing advice.
Okay, let's move on to the second agenda item. That's to review and discuss the work in progress for the recruitment of the permanent city manager and establish a timeline for completion. Again, Teresa?
You have my written report. I'll take any questions.
This is the timeline. The only observation, I guess, is that you're pretty optimistic between the time the short time you have between our selection and having somebody on board. I think that's pretty optimistic.
They're both very short timelines, but.
And normally we'd have to give at least 30 days, I would think, on this.
Right.
I have talked to both Woodside and Menlo Park, and they have told me a little bit about some of the firms that they were either using or not using. So at the time the firms respond, I think that would be the time to talk about it.
I checked with several Northern California cities who are part of the HR association, and I asked them what their experience has been. So I have a list of firms that they work with that they've recommended.
Is the intention here for the ad hoc committee to get the process started then with the firms and whatnot?
Yes.
I'd also suggest that maybe they get inputs from your staff members. You've got a really good staff, and I imagine they're senior staff, so most of them have dealt with different firms in the past. It would be another source, another data point.
Yes,
yeah.
And Deborah has experience. So.
I have a list of all the search firms that Woodside sent out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if anybody wants a copy of that, that's,
I think Teresa would probably take that.
yeah, I'll give you a copy of that.
So I've also talked with the city of Campbell, who recently hired a new city manager, and city of Menlo Park, and there are a number of firms that they went through and ended up using, and whether or not they were completely satisfied or not. So, you know, it really is, it's a process to try to find the right recruiting firm. I guess my question is, even in the most optimistic timeline that we're looking at another, 4 months or more, and why aren't we potentially just trying to hire a bridge interim or an interim like we did before to get an experienced city manager in place while we take our time to do the due diligence to really be able to search for the perfect manager. I just feel like, we're kind of setting ourselves up here for putting our feet to the fire and
Okay,
trying
well,
to do that.
that's, we can take a couple of the comments with regards to that, but it's kind of off topic of what we said we were going to look at today.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is a special meeting, and we're limited to exactly what is on the agenda. And I just looked at the agenda real quickly. Theoretically, you could say that perhaps development of a timeline would change if we went to a bridge person. But to be honest with you, you've been through this recently. The bridge person is going to take almost as long to find as the permanent person, given the fact that we've started the process. At least you could argue that. So,
Well,
With
that's
all
not,
due
that's
respect,
not
that's
totally
not
true.
true, because, no, go ahead.
That's not totally true. We have at least some names who would be willing to come on immediately as a bridge person, but that's,
Well, if we can't discuss it at this meeting because it's not agendized, I would like to ask the city manager to put it on an agenda in the near future for us to talk about it while we go through this process.
I agree with Elizabeth on this one.
Well, I frankly don't see a need for it at this point in time, but if that's,
I concur with Jerry. I think that Teresa is doing an excellent job working with the staff that she has around her. She's been very communicative, and her status reports to us is what she's doing. And I don't think that the timeline, she's been doing it now for a month and putting her heart and soul into it, and I think that she's doing fine, but I realize that we're not to be discussing it any further, so we'll leave it at that.
Through the chair, Mayor, my comments are in no way
I
to be
know.
construed that Teresa's not doing a fine job. I think she's doing an excellent job. I don't think that trying to put something else in place, to give us a little more breathing room is to indicate that she's not doing a great job. I think that, she's actually stepped up and is doing a fabulous job.
If my comments caused misunderstanding, I apologize and retract them.
All right,
do
good.
you realize how much time it would take to get somebody on board and get them familiar with all the things we have going on and so forth? I just don't see where we'd be gaining anything at all.
I just remember when we got Nadine Levin involved at a very quick time frame.
Okay,
the
so I think we need to stop.
referee's throwing the yellow flag saying we're exceeding the scope of the study, so a special meeting.
All right, so the timeline was put forth. We have a motion to accept the timeline as a starting point and move forward?
So move.
Which timeline?
There's two.
Yeah, there's two of them.
I didn't want to assume that you guys wanted to either have a 3-month process or a 4-month process, so I put 2 timelines here forward.
Well,
Deviate from either of them.
I think we ought to shoot for the shortest one.
Right.
And we may have to extend it, but I think
Go with the one that ends at May 16th.
Right. Okay,
I'll second it.
so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes the business that we have here today.
Well, no, you want to still discuss the criteria.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
and
Sorry.
ad hoc.
Well, what I'd like to do on the ad hoc committee is take input from the council members who would like to participate, and then we'll make a decision after consulting.
You can let me know, and I can
Yeah.
send that.
Okay. But if you would like to participate in it, please let Teresa know, and she'll get back with me tonight.
I'm very willing to participate.
Okay?
Why don't we just ask those that are here right now, and then you can ask Kathy later on. I don't feel I need to participate.
I'm mixed. I mean, if no, you know, I probably could, but if other council members feel more qualified, then I wouldn't have a problem either way.
All right, and we'll touch base with Kathy. All right,
So now you want to discuss and develop the criteria for vetting the city manager resumes?
right.
The last paragraph in the staff report is kind of a discussion starter.
Yep. Would you like to start?
I'd be happy to start.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. I had three principal criteria that I felt were important, and you know, given all the things that are in the handouts are going to be not the exceptional person and all that sort of thing. But number one, I think we need to have someone that will have the backbone enough to stand up to council members, not letting us to intimidate or to try to micromanage the town. Will not be afraid to keep reminding us that our role is that of policymaker and not trying to tell department heads what to do. During our interview with John Danielson, I saw evidence that he could stand his ground and wouldn't be a wimp as far as his interface with the council. We have had city managers I considered as wimps in the past. This is a must. The city manager needs to know how to manage the council in terms of the process and interface council members have with the staff. Secondly, someone who our present staff members will respect and look up to. We have an excellent staff, particularly given the town our size. I'm hoping they will want to stay and work with the new city manager. I'll be very interested in their evaluation of our city manager candidates. And I think one of the things that was kind of a good clue for me in terms of John Danielson's ability to do the first two items, stand up to council and to be someone that I felt that the staff could respect, was that in the interview process, as I've said several times, I got the feeling, distinct feeling that he was somebody I could learn from. And I think that really if we can get somebody the same caliber or nearly the same caliber as John, I would be very, very pleased. Finally, the third item is somebody that's financially astute, both short-term and long-term, can look ahead at what is needed to keep this town financially sound, and offer ideas and options that the policymakers can consider to achieve that goal. This includes being able to represent and protect Atherton's interest when it comes to regional and state issues that can impact our town. Things like the South Bay Waste Management Authority, the high-speed rail area, regional transportation, water, and drainage issues. These are all, I think, major issues that could have significant impact on our town. So those are the three key things that come to my mind.
Jim?
One of the things I think is also important is that we have somebody that is capable of dealing with the unions. Because as we know from the past year, that can be difficult, and even so we've had a union negotiator, I think a manager that has had some successful experience in dealing with unions, that would be an advantage. I would also think it would be an advantage if we could find somebody that lived reasonably locally. Not just because of the fact that you know, he could be here at different times, but I think that some of the local people here have a better understanding of this part of the world than hiring somebody from, say, Southern California or Arizona or something like that. And so I agree with the rest of the comments that Councilmember Carlson made. I think that we need somebody really, really strong, somebody that can tell me to go and jump in the lake if that's the way they feel about it. And I would have no problems with that if that, you know, if he felt strongly about that. So I think that's really important. There's also in here, and I can't see it at the moment, but in one of the descriptions, we talk about councilmen. I would think that Councilmember Lewis and McKeithen might object to that, so I changed that to council member.
I don't take offense. I feel like I'm part of the humanity.
Okay, so these are my comments.
You're one of the guys.
No, I'm just part of the humanity
Oh, okay.
of the world. So I guess I feel that we really need to get someone who has experience as a city manager at the city manager level. And I know in our ad that was put out, we talked about a minimum of 8 years and at least 6 years and this. And I was going to ask, where did those numbers of years come from? Is that something that council put together and approved, or was this in the last ad that we had put out?
I actually did research from the last ads that we put out and ads from other cities.
Okay.
And it was around those numbers.
And this was, okay. So I just feel that we don't want to make a mistake and hire somebody who's not had a city manager experience. I think that's really key, because that experience will allow them to be able to deal with all the various aspects of running the city. Understanding the region, like Councilmember Carlson and Councilmember Dobby said, the high-speed rail issues, the garbage issues of our region is really critical. And then just the ability to understand our community. We have a very unique community with very special needs in lots of ways. We don't have the tax base that a lot of other communities have for businesses and retail. We are a residential community, but then we have a lot of the problems of large development around us, the metropolis around us, and we're, traffic issues. So those are I think, the experience at a city manager level is the top of my list.
Okay. Actually, I like a lot of the attributes that you have here: results-oriented, committed to the efficiency of service, good leadership capabilities with the experience that you have identified. I like the fact that there's some private business experience, because we actually need to upgrade some of the ways that we're doing business here in town to get more efficient. The financial expertise is key. I'm glad that you identified business administration as a potential degree, as well as perhaps even an MBA. I agree with Councilmember Dobby's comment, and I've written down on mine, experience in managing in a union environment I think is very key here, especially since the majority of our workforce is represented. And they need to have that type of experience in dealing with not only our labor negotiators, but on a day-to-day basis, handling grievances and things like that. So that was it for me.
Can I make another comment? One of the things I'm concerned about, and I don't know how we address it, but we have to have something here that shows whoever we hire that he has a future. My concern is that this is a little town, relatively speaking, so if we get a really go-go young guy who's looking to make his name, this may not be where he wants to come. On the other hand, we don't want somebody that's coming here to retire in a job, which is what I unfortunately think has happened a couple of times. And therefore, I don't know how we can put something in here that would make it really attractive to the vibrant, younger, I'm not saying young, but younger person who is highly intelligent, highly motivated, and also is looking also for a great career. So.
Perhaps we could ask the recruiting firms if they have any insight into some perks or something that create or develop
longevity in the job.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. I mean, in a business, some businesses, the longer you're on the job, the bigger your bonus is. In other words, you get so much vested every year, and once you keep going, the longer you're there, the more you're vested. So that tends to keep people. And I don't know if we can do that.
I'm not sure you can do
Retention
something
or a
like that.
retention bonus or something like that?
Mr. Mayor, as long as you do something prospective, meaning you can't do it, you can't wait 5 years and go, you've done such a good job, we're going to give you retroactive pay. That's unconstitutional. But you can do something prospectively. I will caution you to tread carefully in that area, because there have been a number of other cities that thought they had really great concepts. For instance, I know one city in Monterey County that used executive managers. They gave them home loan assistance programs. I just helped one city get out of one, and it only cost them $50,000 as a loss, because it's just real easy to forget that your only security for that is the property, and if they let it go into foreclosure, you lose your security. So some of these things, and I think it's a very good suggestion that you talk to the recruiters to find out what kinds of things they see that are out there that are important to people. I mean, you could talk to your own staff, and they could probably give you some concepts and ideas that they've experienced themselves over time that worked, and some that maybe didn't work so well.
So one of the perks that we've always had for the city managers is the house at the park, to offer that, and it's nicely remodeled, and whether or not someone who lives locally here would need a house in the park as part of the compensation package. That's something.
I mean, one of the things I did in a private company, I don't know if you can do it in public companies, but at the end of each year, the individuals were awarded a bonus. They got 50% that year. The other half was vested over I think we did it over a 5-year period, but you can do it over a 10-year period. So the next year, he or she would also get a certain percentage of the bonus that had been awarded this year. And it went on like that. It was really good, because if people stayed, they could end up with a bundle of money.
There are a lot of things you might be able to do that staff would be happy to check out for you. Remember, one of the problems we have is we're a general law city, so we can only do what the state of California says we're authorized to do.
Yeah, I understand.
A lot of my experiences have been quite favorable with charter cities, where there is no limit, literally no limit as to what you can do along those lines. But we would be happy, I know Deborah's over there taking notes, we'd be happy to see if there are some things like that that have been done in non-charter cities that would be of interest to the council, especially if they didn't have a lot of money involved. I know you do have that medical for life that actually is quite a perk for a young person. The problem is it vests in 5 years, and if they move on, they still get that perk.
Yeah.
You might look at whether contractually you would want to limit that to you only get it if you retire from service here, or something like that. We might be able to figure out a way to make that work.
It's just that my feeling is if we get a younger member, of course for me that amongst almost anybody, we got a younger member and he does a super job for us in the first 2 or 3 years, he's going to be people are going to go after him, and that would be a shame, So
So why don't we add that into the RFP, that the potential companies would also list, and that would be a responsibility for them to come back with, the winning bidder that the council would select, would have that obligation to give us some suggestions, but we could ask them as part of their submittal to give us some proactive ideas for general law cities, and so we'll at least get something, and they'll understand that that's a requirement.
But just to clarify the record, RFQ is what we're using.
RFQ, sorry.
I think this is all good and well, but realistically, we get somebody really good. There are an awful lot of openings, even just here on the peninsula, that will be occurring over the next few years, and and we're gonna end up either training somebody or, or getting somebody older, I think, to get the experience. And, you know, I wish I had the same optimism you have, Jim, on being able to retain somebody indefinitely, but I would like to get the best person we can for at least a good 3 years. I think this is going to be a really important period in the life of the town here as we look at buildings and other kinds of things going on here.
Right. Okay. So are there any other inputs on the criteria?
Yeah, I figured out what you want, so I'll develop a list of criteria, and I'll share that with whoever we choose to be the recruiter. And then we'll come back the last week of March and review that with you.
Good.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the review and the discussion is complete then.
Yeah, no motion.
All right, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for coming, everyone. And
Oh, we
everybody-
didn't take any public comment.
uh,
Didn't need to.
We did it at the end.